Hello, besties and bosses. How are we doing? I'm excited for this conversation. I wanted to wait a couple minutes to hop on because I don't know how many of you have been following me for years, but I feel like it has been 4 years that I've been talking about the jackhammering, whatever they're doing. It's like the definition of insanity. I live in New York City. They have been digging up and re-digging up and paving over the street, something to do with the pipes in the water. I'm sure it's actually important for the last, I feel like nonstop for the last 4 years. Anyway, the jackhammer was going like crazy, and I think we have peace and quiet. So let's just hope it happens for the whole live stream. I'm like very chuffed because I have a bunch of calls after this as well, and it can be a little distracting. So yay, things are working in our favor. But that's what's going on in my world. But and I did put a title on this. Well, that wasn't very smart of me. Let's see if we can do that while I'm chatting. Let's see if it'll let me edit the post. That's so funny that it didn't take our title. I'm editing it now. This is something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. I think it's a really important conversation. The one thing that's kept me fully booked for 6.5 years that no one talks about, and how I help my clients do the same thing. If you're on my email list, I'll just jump right in. Oh, and since I'm like all excited about quiet, let me also give my announcements. I have a really fun announcement, something I'm going to, that's free, that I'm going to be sharing over the next week. I'm still, like full disclosure, I've been really busy because a lot of my clients are in the middle of launches. So I've been doing a lot of extra content edits. So some of just the moving pieces I need to have in place for you, I haven't had a chance to get to, so I'll announce it sometime this week. But I will share what it is at the end of our live stream today because I think it's applicable to this. And if you want first dibs, because it is free, you can DM me or message me, and I'll make sure that I give you preference on it. So I'm excited to share it, but I will share it at the end of our conversation because I want to dive into this. So this is a conversation I wanted to share for a while because I think, I talk about how I've been fully booked for 6.5 years. I have a roster of 20 to 25 clients. Right now I have 24 clients for context, if that's interesting or helpful for anyone to know. This isn't the conversation, but I know sometimes people want to know. My sweet spot fully booked number is about 22 to 23 clients. I usually leave a little wiggle room, both and then if I have, if I don't have the 25 clients, it gives me room if I want to open up some intensives or not, which I like to do for obvious reasons. But it also gives me wiggle room because in general, most of my clients renew, but sometimes I have months where, 5 or 6, sometimes even 7 clients are up for renewal. And sometimes I think someone's going to renew, not going to renew. So sometimes I will have filled that spot in advance. Like right now I have spots filled through November, December, I think. Assuming what I think is going to happen, but sometimes I'm wrong. So sometimes that gets bumped up a little bit, which is why we have 24 this month, just to give, because people are always like, what does that mean? And I'm thinking of opening up one permanent spot because I'm noticing with the 24 this month, it actually feels really good and spacious. I do have a couple clients on vacay, so I want to feel that out. So if you're interested in an ongoing spot, I am technically full through the end of the year, but I might open up an additional permanent spot and still opening up those strategy intensives. Anyway, I know a lot of times people are ask me about that and wonder why I still sell and why I still do certain things, and want to know just more about how I've stayed fully booked for that long. And something I said in the email here, the email that went out for this conversation, and that I just think about a lot is, yes, I'm very proud of my business. I think I wrote a post about this yesterday. I think part of my secret is also that I have just sold one thing for the last 9 years. So it would kind of be weird if I didn't have some sort of brand reputation demand built at that time. So I think just to name that, I think that is part of why I've stayed fully booked. And because I have a one-on-one model, and because that's all I focus on, I have a strong client retention. So a lot of that makes it easier. So that's not what this conversation is about. I'm definitely proud of all of that. But I will say, back in 2020, I, in air quotes, accidentally got fully overbooked with 29 one-on-one clients. I say accidentally because I think subconsciously I probably wanted it and thought, I don't know, it was COVID. I was at home. I was grieving. It felt like I just lost my dad as well. So it seemed like a really good thing to spend all my time and energy on. And I almost lost sight of what we're going to talk about today. And I think this is something that, had I lost sight of, I really think it would have cost me so big in my business. I think when I had the 29 clients around that time, that's when I had my 88K sales month. And the reason I share that is not to flex a number, but is to say, I think what would have been confusing, and what I see for so many people who come to hire me, is I would have seen, I had this pop month, I have all these clients, I'm making all of this money. I'm losing sight of this thing, and I don't think it would have caught up with me for another 6 months to a year, maybe even 2 years. And so then I would have been 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, and I would have seen, I think, I mean, we don't have a crystal ball because I did catch this, but I think had I not caught this, and we're going to talk about this, and I'm going to break this all down, but I think had I not caught this, I think it would have caught up with me, let's say 2022, which is also when the industry was really starting, maybe a little bit before the industry really started to shift. And I would not have known why, because most of us don't see when the problems start to happen. We just see when the problem happens, and we look at like sort of what we've been doing over the last month or two. And I think it would have been really confusing to me. So that's why I want to have this conversation, because I think this is something I see for not just new business owners, but for so many of my clients who are further along. This is a conversation I have with them. And for people who are further along who hire me, who are sometimes sort of like, I don't know what the F just happened to my business. It was booming. Sometimes, it's not always the case. I mean, we've had a lot of conversations in this group. Let's not gaslight anyone. The online space has changed dramatically. It is changing faster than ever. I'm studying my content daily and changing what we're doing. I'd say like every couple of months, like what I was telling clients and doing myself a couple of months ago has already shifted. So let's not gaslight anyone in that. Let's not gaslight anyone that it is, I wrote a post that's going out next week about this. I don't say like harder. You have to be more intentional than ever. Like it takes more intentionality and focus in business right now to continue to book clients and make money. So let's not gaslight anyone on that. And I do think what we're going to talk about today is something that it is outside of industry shifts. It is outside of AI. It is outside of the normal conversation. I just don't think we have a lot of people talking about this. And I think it is one of the biggest reasons that, especially if you're further along, businesses end up suffering and they wake up one day and they're sort of like, I don't know what happened. And I really want to raise my hand. It almost happened to me. And I'm so grateful. I mean, I had coaching support as well to help me catch this, but I'm so grateful for that, because I really think I would have had a big issue, and I do not think it would have happened for a couple of years. And it would have, I think, then taken me at least a year to rebuild. Okay, so I'm teasing it out. I'm not trying to tease it out, but I just want to give context for why this is important. I'm going to share what the thing is that most people ignore until it's too late, and what it actually takes to create and sustain client demand over time. I'm going to share my mindset and thought process behind this as a coach who is fully booked, has made, I think we're at almost 1.8 million in the last 6.5 years from one offer, from all one-on-one, from not having a ton of offers or anything like that, who stayed fully booked. I'm going to share and then break down some of the strategy just in terms of what I'm looking at with clients around this and what I would be paying attention yourself, so that you can see, is this something to pay attention to? And if so, what should I be paying attention to? And I'll just leave you with a journaling prompt around that, just so that you know kind of what we're going to go through. Okay, I wrote so many notes on this because I feel like this is such an important conversation, and I never follow my notes, so let me pull this up. I think we talked around what this is already. Okay, so just the last piece here, just in terms of why this is important. I think, again, let me just share what the thing is, and then I'll explain why it is important. So essentially the thing is not prioritizing your pipeline and filling your pipeline and keeping it full. And hang with me, because that sounds so unsexy, but I want to break down quite a bit around this, my thought process around this, what this means, how to strategically do this, because I think this is, if I go back to Kim, who had 29 one-on-one clients, I cannot tell you how I still thought I was doing all the things I needed to in my marketing and sales. I was still showing up and posting content. I was still live in here every week. I was still selling. I was still doing the things I thought I needed to do. And what I noticed, and this is again what I just see happen so often, is, but I was so in client delivery. I had 29 one-on-one clients, and I'm very hands-on with my clients. Like, yes, it was COVID, and like we were all stuck at home, and again, I was grieving, so like it was a great place to put my energy, and most of my attention was going there. And so what was happening is, yes, I was still marketing and selling, but I wasn't showing up in the way I needed to bring my thought leadership, to be innovative, and to really do the things that fill my pipeline and keep it full. And so had I not caught this, I really think like the secret to my success is I am always focused on filling my pipeline, keeping my pipeline full. And that is something, even when I am full, I am focused on, and I'm always thinking about the long term of my business. So I'm not thinking about, I have clients booked through November, December, like the end of this year. I'm not thinking about what is happening this month or next month. Obviously, when you're getting fully booked, like that's a different conversation. So like, nuanced context here, like apply this to where you're at in business. But I'm really thinking about, with my pipeline, I'm really thinking about 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, a year, 2 years down the road. And again, the pipeline piece is just really something that I temporarily lost sight of, and I'm so glad that I didn't. And it is something I keep as a top priority, to the degree that when I shared at the beginning of this conversation what my client roster is, I mean, technically, I can hold 29 clients. The reason I don't hold 29 clients anymore isn't because it was burning me out. I loved having 29 clients. I mean, yes, I probably wouldn't want that now just because the world is open. I can not, like, I'm not just gonna be at home all the time. But I love my one-on-one work. I love supporting clients. I love being on calls with them. I would honestly, that's why I'm very mindful about opening up that additional one-on-one spot. It's because I know I need to make sure I have time and capacity, not just to market and sell, but to really intentionally make sure my pipeline is staying full. And so to the degree that I will sacrifice revenue and a client spot to make sure that can happen. And what I'm going to share at the end, my free thing for you at the end is just a really great example of that. So that, I hope that makes sense, because I think it is sort of the least sexy thing ever, which is why I think people don't talk about this a lot. And it is truly, I think, what has kept my business full, what has kept me in demand, and what has supported me through some, I mean, let's be honest, the last couple of years in business, I think have been challenging. We've seen more businesses close than ever before. I think we've seen, I think it just is harder. It takes longer to, it's not impossible. My revenue is up 22% this year. I have lots of clients who are thriving right now, and it is taking more intentionality and I guess work. I mean, I feel like work is such a dirty word in our online space. Like, I don't know like what else to say. Like, that's just, it's just what it takes right now. And again, I shared some of the other things. I think there's other factors that go into it. But one of those factors is that I've been focused on keeping my pipeline full for so long. So when the algorithm shifts, when marketing shifts, when these things shift and I need to adapt and figure that out, I'm not relying on how do I quickly figure out what's going viral on Instagram, because I have to quickly get someone to know, like, and trust me in a week to fill a client spot or I'm effed. It's, I've been doing this for the last like my pipeline has been full for the last however long. So I already know there are people popping up. I actually have time to study this, to figure this out, to implement, to like kind of ride with these shifts and changes. But it also keeps me then out of course I want to pay attention to market shifts. Of course I want to pay attention. I mean, I'm literally studying this every day with clients. It's, I think, one of the values a lot of my clients who are further along, who have a great strategy in place, is that I'm, I have my pulse on this so that I can support them with that at all as well. Of course, all of that matters, but that matters, like, that's one part of it. And if I wasn't keeping my pipeline full, I think I would feel really stressed and frenetic. And I think I would be in the trap that a lot of people who have successful businesses are, which is you're so in, again, I mentioned this already, but just to repeat it, you're so in delivery or in the weeds with your team, or you're in that place where you're like, I shouldn't have to do this anymore. And you're like, I should just be able to be checked out in a beach, that you're focused on one part of what is really necessary. And I think the other thing here, and then I'll just go into talking about like my mindset around this and the practical strategy around how I identify my pipeline, like just some things to pay attention to. I think the other thing here that comes up and why I wanted to have this conversation with you all is you can't fix in your business what you don't know to pay attention to and to track. So yes, like you can't, I talk so much about, I mean, I get this vocabulary from my coach, so shout out to Lacey Seitz. I've worked with her for 7 years. She talks a lot about identifying and solving the right problem, which is really the mindset I take with clients. I think our online space will just tell you all of the time a lot of problems that you don't need to solve. And my work with clients is a side of a sidebar, but I have 3, 4, maybe 5 clients in launches right now. It is really fascinating to me how they're all in launches. They have similar launch strategies. I am helping and supporting all of them in 4 completely, however many people are in launches, different ways, because my job isn't to just give them a template of something. My job is to help them spot the right problem with what's going on to get the best results, right? And they all just have different things going on. The reason I say this is it's just really tough if you don't even know what to look for, how to spot the right problem or gap to close in your business. And so if you don't even know, it's important to keep your pipeline full and to constantly be filling it and keeping it full, and like that is a priority. When we have things like an algorithm change, when we have things like the market shifts, when we have things like marketing changes, when we have things like a trust recession, when we have things like the economy being shaky for people, when we have things like the politics, that's not what you say it, but like, really heightened division in at least the US, but I think worldwide, right? When we have all of this going on and then you're not getting the results you want, right? Like suddenly leads are drying up, suddenly clients are drying up sales, revenue, right? Your launch is going differently than it did last time. It's really tough then to know what problem to solve when you're not even sure what to pay attention to. When you know that part of this is always being focused on filling your pipeline, then you also start to know how to pay attention to those metrics far before there's ever a problem, right? I caught this back in 2020 when I almost started to let this happen, which meant I could self-correct far before there was ever a problem. It's sort of like once there's a big problem, it's not that it's too late. It's just there's so much more. I don't know if this is the best analogy, and y'all have to look like, hey, listen, nice to see you. I just saw you on here. I think of this sort of like, if you suddenly gain a ton of weight, it's usually not what you did last week. It's usually small changes that we weren't paying attention to for the last, year, 2 years, right? That just stack up over time in a positive direction. It's sort of like building wealth with the stock market. It's usually not because of one investment popping, though that can happen. I know for me, it's that I've just been putting small incremental investments in for decades at this point, right? And they're just really stacking up over time. Anyway, all of that goes to like this. I think this is why this is so important to identify, because otherwise this is so easy to then blame on a really big thing or think something that everybody's talking about in the online space that might not actually be the reason why you're not bringing in the results you want. Wait, hopefully that all makes sense. But if you have questions, let me know. Okay, so the way I wanted to talk, I'm going to talk about this just a little bit in terms of how I think about this mindset wise, because I do think there's a mindset component to this, and then I will share just some more like tangible. I'll give a client example, but some tangible takeaways just in terms of what you can implement to fill your pipeline and keep it full. So I'm like revved up about this. I think it's really interesting. I don't know if you all find this interesting. You have to let me know. But I'm not even that caffeinated. I feel very adamant about this. And so if I sound extra hyped, that's why. I just will say it is because I think this is that important. I want everybody to understand. This is so important. This makes a really big difference in your business. Okay, let me have a sip of my coffee though with that. Okay, so in terms of the mindset and identity shift here, I do think this is a bit of a shift into, I talk a lot about your CEO role, stepping into that CEO role and identity more. And what I mean by that is, I think when we are building our business, or when we're growing and building our business, which is an important phase of business, so this is not to make that wrong, but I do think we are a little bit more in a reactive mode and sort of like what needs to happen right now, a little bit more of a healthy hustle, hopefully healthy hustle. But it does just take more fuel at liftoff. What's the analogy? It's like 95% of fuel is taken to get, liftoff, and then you need 5% for like the rest of the space voyage or however that goes. It's the same in business. Like it does. If you don't have a pipeline to start, if you don't have a business to start, if you're not fully booked to start, it is just going to take more energy, effort, work there. So I think just remembering that. And then as we get into a place of sustaining and scaling, I think this is where, and so not that you don't have a CEO mindset before, but I do think it is starting to really step into a different maybe season. It's like graduating into the next level of being a CEO and the way you think about your business. And I really think a big transition, and something I support so many of my clients with then, is getting out of that reactive month to month. There's always something I need to hustle to get to make it work this week, and to really starting to think more about long-term future-proofing your business, long-term planning, playing the long game. And so I think it is a balancing act, because as CEOs in our business, we do have to also balance the present moment, right? Making sure we are fully booked now, serving our clients, doing our current marketing, while also really having that future lens. I know, kind of an aside from this conversation, a conversation I'm having with so many of my clients is AI proofing their business. We're not necessarily worried about that today, though I do think it's affecting some businesses, especially if you have more of like a course model. I think that is definitely a conversation that, I'm having with clients, or a membership that's more information based. But we're also, we're looking out into the future. We don't have a crystal ball, but that is something we're thinking about. And I think it's also, in terms of that kind of CEO level mindset shift, I think it is also starting to think about, especially if you have a service base, most of us have some sort of delivery, even if you deliver, something evergreen and like more passive sales, so to say, you're probably still in delivery of, updating those modules or showing up for the marketing, or maybe you have host group calls. And so I think there is this shift into, okay, now I have to balance delivery with also creating and carving out space for working on the business and thinking about the business for what it needs now and what it needs for the future, so that my pipeline stays really healthy. And I kind of said this earlier, but I think this isn't so much something that came up for me when I had the 29 clients, but I do see this happen for some people, and I think it's just worth naming, is not letting that, that getting fully booked or selling your last launch, your last successful launch, or your big cash month leading to complacency, or having you decide you get to tap out from your visibility, your sales strategy, and keeping your pipeline full. I do think that part of the reason we will see the feast and famine cycle for people in business is either that, right, I just had a big pop month and now I'm on the hook for all this delivery, so now I'm pulling back from marketing, from keeping my pipeline full, or I just had a big pop month, I did it, I deserve it, I'm just going to manifest more, like I don't need to worry about it, and kind of stopping doing the very things that led to that pop month. And I think that can be particularly tricky. And I know I'm hitting all over the head with this, but I think when we're in it, it's just so easy to not see the forest for the trees. I think this can also be so tricky because one of the challenges currently, and it's not a challenge, but I think it's just maybe reality is a better thing to say, is for most people, customer journeys are getting longer, especially if you have a high ticket offer. It's not for everyone. I mean, I have people who come into my world and can hire me 2 days later, I think is the last time that happened. But I have literally years of content for them to consume to condense that customer journey. It is not because I wrote one post, they saw that and decided to hire me. If that is the case, I would actually really need to vet them to make sure I'm a really good fit for them. When that happens, it is because I have an ecosystem, so they have been able to spend the equivalent of 3 to 6 months, right, consuming my content. But in general, because of all the factors we've talked about in so many live streams, right, there is a longer customer journey. And so if we then find ourselves in this trap of either getting complacent or detaching from our strategy because we're in service delivery or because we've like made it in air quotes, and we then stop paying attention to our pipeline, right, this is where we can see it's not just the immediate result, it's seeing that then if we have to crank the wheel again, right, and let's say, it's going to take a second to catch up with you. So let's say it takes 3 to 6 months to catch up with you. Let's say it takes a year to catch up with you. So you don't really know what the problem is anyway. We're blaming it on social media or the marketplace or whatever. Then you figure out, it's that my pipeline isn't full. So now you've got to crank the wheel up again to fill your pipeline. But usually, I think what we forget is that pop month you had probably didn't happen because of the things you did 2 days ago or even that month. That pop month you had or getting fully booked was probably the culmination of what you had been doing for the last 3 to 6 months up to a year before that. And so then if you stop and you have to start all over again, right, you see how it could take you another 3 to 6 months, a year again to get to that result. Because that takes so long, that's when we think that must not be the problem and we go chase shiny objects. And this is where we create a lot of problems in business. Okay. And so I think it's starting to see that as a CEO, why this is so important to really keep this front and center and to be carving out time for this as much as you do time for client delivery. Is this making sense? Let me know if you have a question around this. Hey, Nikki, nice to see you. I'm so sorry I'm seeing these late. I don't even think it's not showing me messages. I think it is just that I am so adamant about this. But if you have questions around this, if any of this doesn't make sense, let me know. Okay, so I'm going to share the other mindset piece that helps me keep showing up when I'm full, because I have clients ask this all the time. And then I will share just some tangibles just in terms of how to pay attention, like what to pay attention to for your pipeline. So I think the big thing I just like to remember in business is that I'm not special or owed anything. I mean, yes, I'm special. We're all special. I love myself in that way. And I know I'm great at what I do, but I know I learned this acting. Being great at what you do is the bare minimum, and that does not guarantee results. I mean, there was a gazillion people who were great at what they did acting, but because they weren't keeping their pipeline full, so to say, with auditions and work, they weren't working. I know my job is to treat my business like a business, and being great at what I do, yet not to be braggy, but I should be good at what I do after this long. I know I'm good at what I do, but I know I'm not owed anything. The online space doesn't owe me anything. Being good at what I do doesn't owe me anything. I just know that's true. And I also know staying full isn't forever. And my job is to always plant seeds for the future. My family has, some of my cousins have a wine vineyard in upstate New York. It's really cool. It's really beautiful. But I think about this. We have I have nothing to do with this. But our family, I guess, should say, has a bottle of wine. It's called Argetsinger Riesling, if you want to look it up. But it like got some awards because of the grapes and all that. So like it's a big fun thing. My cousins know that just because one year's crops were really great and they got an award or whatever, I don't even know enough about wine, but like they got something great for those Riesling grapes, doesn't mean now suddenly they have to stop planting seeds or tending to their garden, or like suddenly they have to stop harvesting. They know, if anything, they're not guaranteed another great year, right? Like the winter could be crappy, the summer, like all sorts of things could happen. Their job is to continually be planting future seeds, taking care of those crops, right? Investing in new equipment. They just built a new barn and bought new equipment. Like that is a forever job for them. If they just rested on that, the laurels of like that one year, they would be effed. The other mindset I really have, and I think this is such a CEO level mindset, is I really want to avoid the trap of waiting until things are bad, in air quotes, to like use that as something to light a fire under my ass. That it to me feels like a really, dangerous is the wrong word, a really pressure filled place to operate from, and especially with a one-on-one model where fit is so important to me, and it really matters to me that I'm working with people I believe I can support and that I believe are a good fit. And it's important to me that I show up present for them and I'm not selling from a place that isn't in integrity. If I wait until things are in quote bad and I'm feeling desperate or needy, or like I have to make a sale, or this person needs to say yes, or I like need to hurry up the sales process, or I need to hurry up and make a decision because otherwise my needs won't be met, that feels like a really out of integrity and, yeah, I guess dangerous place to be operating my business from. So from a mindset perspective, it's not that I'm like operating from fear, but I have, I guess, it's like a healthy level of, I want to avoid that. So maybe it is avoidance, but I want to avoid that. So these are the things I'm going to do to future-proof my business to avoid that. For those of you who've hung out with me for a long time, you know when I started my business, I kept my bar job and I kept my 9 to 5 until I already had hired a VA and was fully booked and I was making double, I think, what I was at my 9 to 5 when I finally left it. And yes, I was juggling a lot, but part of the reason is exactly what we're talking about here. I never wanted to put myself in a position where I needed, like where I was coming from a desperate place to book a client and I had to rush the sales process or anything like that. So I think if that's helpful. I also think that, I'm just trying to think of how I want to say this. I think valuing in our business, building demand or creating demand generation really is future-proofing your business and being a CEO, and valuing that as much as how much money you make in a current month, like getting out of that like monthly revenue mindset, right? And thinking long-term of how much we're building over a year. But I'm happy with it. Like I'm glad our revenue's up 22%. I share that more just to give context that our business is growing. But I really try to get out of the month to month and even year to year and try to think long-term in my business. And I know, hey, what keeps my business, I want to be around for 10 years from now, right? I have 10-year goals, not 1 month goals. But part of that is the level of demand I build. And I also know that, I'm just trying to think of how to say this, like, you know, that matters as much as the money I'm making on if that makes sense. And I really think that is a different level of CEO thinking, where it has us think about different things our business needs from us, not just what we need to do to make a quick sale or money in the moment, is really what I'm trying to get at there. I would rather sacrifice, in air quotes, a little bit of revenue in exchange for long term having that sustainability and that demand built up, because that's what allows me to make money over the long term and to make really great decisions in my business, but also to show up from a place of service that's really supporting my clients' results. I also have a revenue share model, so that attracting the right clients and having those long-term partnerships, that also only supports me over time. And so even that, like that's an example of like, that is a long-term play. Like I'm not looking at how do I get rich next week. I'm looking at how do I build this for the long term to be around for the long term. And I guess the other just mindset there is my mindset has just always been, it's sort of like I'm fit and in shape. I want to stay fit and in shape, so I'm going to keep doing the things. I'm not going to suddenly stop lifting weights or going to the gym or going to my spin classes now that I'm in shape. I want to stay in shape, right? So I need to keep doing the things that got me here. So it's the same thing. I like being fully booked, so I'm going to keep doing the things that got me fully booked. So I want to sell and market even when I don't need to, because if I do that when I don't need to, I will never have to, right? Like that's how I stay in overflow, but that's also how I never need to. And I never, because I then, I set myself up for future success. So here's a question for you, and then I will give you the tangible takeaways. So what I like to, just like a simple question, and I think I say simple, I really want everyone to hear, this is stuff, I literally almost fell into this trap when I was fully booked with clients. So I am not calling anyone out. I think when we are in our business and we are also like having the realities of day-to-day life, and our businesses pay, I'm a breadwinner in my business, right? So it actually really matters that we hit certain numbers, because I have an expensive lifestyle in New York City and there's only one revenue. Like there's no income from anywhere else coming in. I mean, we have plenty of investments and reserves, but just in terms of, I'm not discounting the need of needing to make money month to month. And I don't want to make anyone feel like shamed or wrong around this. I just want to say, I just don't think this is something a lot of us are having conversations or thinking about, because we're so hyper fixated on the immediate needs, and the marketing in the online space is so hyper fixated. I mean, I know I market this way because it's what people want to hear as well, but just on those monthly results. Anyway, so all of this is to say, do not let any of this if you're a client of mine, you know I'm so big on do not make yourself wrong. This is not to make anyone wrong. It is to create awareness around this, because this is how we can start to know what things to pay attention to and to measure. But here's a simple question you can use to audit. Am I only focused on what brings me cash this month? Or am I planting seeds for clients who will be ready in 3 to 6 months? Or another way to say this is, am I only focused on what brings me in cash this month? Or am I planting seeds for clients' revenue a year to 2 years down the road? And so I think, again, that's just some of the mindset piece I would play with that gets you out of that. It's like the now revenue loop, right? Like I've got to make money now. And then that client finishes up and you're like, okay, I got to make money now, right? We're just stuck in that loop. And only doing the things that lead to quick sales, which are beneficial, but then you're always having to operate from that place. And a lot of times what gets you a quick sale can burn you and your audience out. As opposed to, if I can start to think to some of, like, marry with what do I need now and what am I also doing for the long term, that's how you get yourself out of that, I need to have like the quick cash injection mindset, because you're building for the future. It's sort of like having a savings account, right? We still need money now, but if you start to just put a little bit away in that savings, you just know you've always got that buffer if you need it. Okay. So I'm going to not give a client example, because I feel like I've given a lot of examples here and I've been talking for 40 minutes already. How do I do that? So I want to talk about some of the tangibles. Just want to see if we don't have any questions. If you have a question though, now or on the replay, or if you're listening in the vault, throw them at me. Okay, so let's just talk really quickly about what does a healthy pipeline actually look like in your business, because I think I'm saying that term like everyone might know what that means, and you may or may not. This is going to vary for everyone's business wildly. You might not have a one-on-one model. Your fully booked number might be 8 clients or 6 clients. You might have a huge membership or a huge group program. So take this all and apply it to your business. I'm giving, kind of a loose example here of what a healthy pipeline might look like, looking more at my business or businesses that are like mine. But again, so take this all into context. What I like to know is, do I have at least 2 to 3 warm leads that are likely to convert in the next 30 to 60 to 90 days? Again, for me, it's this is maybe less because I have spots booked out, but I'm still thinking about that, because even if I don't have a spot available, I want to know my pipeline is full, and that I would know who those warm leads are if I had a spot open up that I could reach out to, or that we can, that we can have on the wait list. Like I do wait list spots for future that I could say, hey, actually a spot opened up earlier. Or like now, I'm thinking about opening up that additional spot. So I want to know that I have at least 2 to 3 warm leads. And I'm saying that because, especially for those of you who have more one-on-one or even like a mastermind or a group program, where you don't need all of the people at the time. We think our pipeline needs to have hundreds and hundreds of people, and it's really, do you have a couple of warm leads at any given time that are likely to convert? I like to look at, do I have a continual steady flow of new eyeballs that are coming into my world? New leads. Like this is essentially traffic, but I know this is, I mean, this is one of the reasons, I talked about this very transparently, one of the reasons that we started implementing ads. We used to always post in Facebook groups. Um, Ads are frankly a lot cheaper, but one of the things I looked at is looking at my pipeline. I have a great conversion rate. I haven't done the math recently. Last time I did the math, it was a 93.2% sales call conversion rate, right? And I am great at keeping my pipeline full, but there is a point in which you're just talking to the same people over and over again. You want to make sure you have new eyeballs coming through. And so I want to make sure I always have a steady flow of, new traffic with people I'm starting new relationships with. So not just eyeballs, so like not just a viral post, although that can't be great, but new eyeballs that are actually going to be potential right fit clients. And that can be from ads, that can be from content, that can be from referrals, interviews, collaborations. I'm a really, really big, if you have any sort of high ticket offer, I'm a really big fan of collaborations. I would say collaborations have been very beneficial for us in terms of bringing new eyeballs and really great clients and keeping that pipeline full. I'm also looking at things just in terms of like, what does a healthy pipeline look like? Am I getting regular engagement from my audience that signals trust and that things are resonating? Are my emails getting open? Am I getting clicks? Am I having people DM me from time to time? Am I getting comments? This isn't about, again, going viral or having my email list has only grown transparently because we've run ads. We hit 1.495 million with, I think it was less than 800 or about 800 people on my email list. So, it's going to be different if you're selling a big membership. Obviously, you need a bigger audience, but depending on your offer, this isn't about volume. I really loathe, I'm not calling anyone out, but I do not love the marketing that tells you if you don't have like 10 people in your DMs begging for the link to buy, you're doing something wrong. I am booked out pretty much through the new year. Please still book a consultation if you want to talk about working together, because I might open up a spot and I might have someone not renew, and I might have, and we'll still open up intensives. But the reason I'm saying that is I have my pipeline full, right? And it's not like I have 10 people in my DMs every day saying they want to hire me for one-on-one coaching. Like, that is just false. And I do have people in my DMs saying what content lands with them, saying what spoke to them. I do have people who reach out to ask about my availability or to ask if I would open up a spot, right? And so I do have that in my pipeline. I do know who my warm leads are. So I want to see, are there things that are showing me those signals that people in my audience are engaging, that they trust what I have to say, that it's landing, that it's resonating, it's warming people up. And then ideally, I'm also I book consultations, right? Do I have a system that helps me track and touch those warm leads? Obviously without feeling gross. And so that's going to look different for everyone, but I know between, with ads, for example, seeing who's coming in, but I'm also tracking things like, are we booking calls? Are we booking consultations? Do I have people who are interested in spots? I have a spreadsheet, for all of this. Do I have people who are booking future spots? If I had a spot open up, do I know who my warm leads are to reach out to? If I don't know that, that's okay, because I'm paying attention to it, but then I know that means my pipeline isn't full, right? So that's just what kind of like the signs of a healthy pipeline, what I'm looking for. And again, it's not the reason back when this kind of fell off the wayside, what I started to know is I was still marketing, but I wasn't, I was marketing selling, but some of these markers were starting to really drop because so much attention was going to my clients. So it's not just about, am I marketing? It's not just about, am I putting stuff in Facebook groups or running ads? It was more like, am I getting those messages, right? Am I getting those calls booked? Am I seeing, I know who my next 3 clients could be, for example. And if not, that doesn't mean you have a huge problem in your business. It simply means focusing on filling your pipeline and keeping your pipeline full is a big opportunity for you that's going to create a lot more ease and sustainability, right? And just knowing that this is kind of a continual thing, because then some of those people turn into clients, right? And then you fill the pipeline up again. I also think about this as it's a little less for me. Like, I need to have specific numbers in here. And more, I want to know I'm getting in front of and building relationships with the right people, and that I know there are some warm, right people in my audience who I'm priming to work together, versus like I need tons and tons of numbers. But again, this is very specific. I have a one-on-one business. You might have, if you have a course model, it might be very, very different. So take this again with a little grain of salt. So here are some things I would check in for your own pipeline if this is helpful. And again, if you have questions, throw them at me. I'm going to try to go through this quickly because I made this way longer than I intended to. and probably some of this will be a repeat, but just gonna check in with for your pipeline. Do you have lead flow? Excuse me. Are new people finding you each month? Is it consistent or random? So that's a big one for me. I know that what creates a lot of security, safety, stability in my business is knowing I know how to get leads and how to fill my pipeline and how to book clients, and it is not random. I don't know who my next client is. I tell my clients this all the time. Like, I have no idea who's hiring me. I mean, I know who's already hired me, but I don't know who my next client is. But I know it is not random in terms of what works for me to fill my pipeline and to book my next client. So, do you have lead flow? Like, do you know how you're creating lead flow? Do you have nurture points? Are you building trust with those leads consistently? Do they feel seen, understood, and like you're the person to help them? Do they understand what it is you do and why you're the best option for them? If not, that is something that is a part of your pipeline. This is like all marketing stuff y'all know, but these are things I would be thinking about, because sometimes we, especially when we're busy in delivery, we start phoning in our marketing. This is what I noticed. I was kind of just rinsing and repeating master classes. I was just like rinsing and repurposing a ton of content, which is fine, but it is not what fills and keeps your pipeline full. And it definitely wasn't me getting into my CEO, putting my CEO hat on to really think about the nurture points my audience needs. Are there conversion opportunities? I know I talk about this all the time in terms of like what a holistic strategy needs, so I'm repeating myself from other classes or lives, but this is important. Do you have conversion opportunities? Basically, are you regularly selling? Do you have regular invitations in to work with you or to deepen that relationship with you without always needing a big launch or campaign? So I think if you have a launch model, obviously that makes sense, but even if you have a launch model, what's happening in between launches? Do we have a way to get people on a wait list, to have private conversations, to be in the DMs, to have an application link, to have a consult, to get on a free call with you, to get a free trial, free course, free mini class, free something from you, right? Do we have those conversion opportunities happening? Because that's also a great way to get people in your pipeline and to see who's warmer in your pipeline. And then do you know who's considering working with you? This is nuanced because, again, I don't always know who my next client is, but I do have an idea based on how certain people, like, there are buying cues. I mean, sometimes someone books a call and I'm like, I had no idea that you were paying, like, you are a silent lurker. I had no idea. And I do generally have an idea of some of my warm leads based on how they're interacting with me, with my content, the conversations we're having. And maybe calls we've had. So you're not always going to know who your warm people are, but do you have some idea of who's considering working with you? And I guess aside from that, because again, depending on your model and how you interact with people, that may be confusing. But I just really, like, just to make it as simple as possible, are you intentionally warming people up and staying in touch with people after you had a touch point with them? Or are you just hoping they're going to circle back around or figure it out, or like figure out why they should hire you or why you're the best option? So I think that's just maybe just a different way to think about it. I think there's just a little bit of intentionality there that I think we sometimes think we shouldn't. I was talking about this with another client and she was like, but if they wanted it, wouldn't they just like hire me? And I'm like, I mean, yeah, maybe, but this is almost more a sales conversation. Most sales happen between the 5th and 12th touch point. I think we forget how inundated and busy people are and how many options people have and how we know everything about our work and why we can support someone. And we often know, I know within minutes of a sales conversation if I can help you. It usually takes someone on the other side, unless they've consumed a lot of my content, far longer to know and to come to that because they don't have the context and lens that I do. I've also been doing this for a lot longer, and I'm looking from the outside in instead of inside of the glass, so to say. So I think just really think about, am I intentionally warming people up and intentionally staying in that pipeline with them to have those touch points to follow up, or am I just hoping people will connect the dots, figure out if they really want it, they'll circle back? I just, like, the thing I will lovingly say to clients is that is your job. Don't put that job on a potential client. That is such a big ask of someone in your pipeline. That is such a big ask, I think. That is on us, and I think that is our job. I made myself a note as a reframe here. I think the reframe that I just always have as well, just to kind of bring this full circle, is just remembering that a full client roster, a full sold out program, a full business is not the same thing as a full client pipeline. Okay, just seeing if there are questions. Y'all are so quiet. So we're just gonna, I'm so glad I made notes too, because I can go through this last part really quickly. Just one little last section here and then I will make my announcement. Thank you for staying on long with me. I know this is a longer one. I hope this is valuable for y'all. Let me know if it is. If it's not, also let me know, because then I know to share different things with you, or to share content in a different way. But I wanted to give you like a really deep dive on like the practicals here and what I would be supporting you with if we were working together. So what I think is helpful is just knowing some of the things to pay attention to, so you can know what metrics will tell you if your pipeline isn't full and if things are off. So again, I said this earlier, but if your consult or whatever that next action step in your sales process is, if you had a lot of those and that's what got you full, or filled your program, or filled your course, or you had a lot of signups for something, and those start to slow down, or they're coming from misaligned people, that's just something like, oh, okay, like it's not remember, we want to address things before they become a big problem. This doesn't mean there's a big problem, but this means there's probably some stuff that's off that we want to adjust before it becomes a big problem. If your DMs are drying up, unless you have a massive audience and you're selling like a $27 program, or like you have, I don't know, 150K people in your audience. I have clients who do, so like that is a real thing. But unless that's the case, this is not, are you getting 100 DMs a day? Is everybody begging you for the link every day? That is marketing talk from people to tell you that you're doing things wrong so you will buy their program or system. But are you not getting any DMs? Or did you used to have some good engagement with your audience and now those have dried up? Or are you never, ever getting someone asking about your work anymore? Right? If that's happening, then something's probably off and something to pay attention to. Is your engagement dropping off and you're not seeing back end signs of interest? Again, algorithms do change. Marketing does change. I know I have a ton of silent lurkers who hire me. So I'm looking at different types of engagement, but overall, I also know what's normal in my business and what keeps me full and what my full, like, healthy pipeline looks like. So I'm more looking at, is what is normal for us, is that dropping? This does not mean, do you have 100 comments on every post, but are you seeing you used to have engagement and now it's dropped completely? Or, did you used to have a lot of people engaging with your Instagram stories, for example? I know a lot of people who consider hiring me watch my stories and will comment on them, right? If I saw a lot of that dry up, that would be something I'm like, okay, that's just something for me to pay attention to. Or if I saw, when I send emails about coaching, it's not like every time I send a coaching offer, I have 100 people booking a consultation. But if I never saw people even clicking on the link or clicking on interest in the offer or booking a call, it wouldn't be a problem yet, but that would be a sign for me that there's something for me to pay attention to. And then I think the last one here is just noticing, are you working in your business in terms of client delivery, or even just maybe creating content quite a lot and not having a chance to work on the business and those relationships and the long-term thinking and thinking about what is moving future-proofing your business. If that's the case, again, it doesn't mean there's actually a problem, but it does mean that's probably something to pay attention to and a sign that you're not prioritizing your pipeline, and that might be something to create some time and space for. So I think the big, too long didn't watch, too long didn't read thing I would say here is, this doesn't have to be a problem, and this doesn't mean to, what I'm saying here is not you now need to have the biggest pipeline, the biggest audience, the biggest demand for you or your F. It's just, if we learn how to think like that next level CEO and start to think about a couple of months out from business, we can also avoid the panic moment. So if you don't wait until a panic moment, if you don't wait until, oh shoot, I don't know where my next client is coming from, and instead we start to think long-term, play the long game, start to think about building those relationships, bringing in those people in terms of leads, nurturing them, having those touch points, right? Having people in your pipeline, starting to build that. I mean, in some ways, this is like business 101. I just think when we get busy, we don't think about this until we're in a panic moment. And then it's not that it's too late. It's just, it's going to take time to fill a pipeline up with warm people again. So if you can start to pay attention to this before there's a problem and start to notice what the markers are that there's something to course correct, which will happen in every business, right? You really future-proof your business. And I think that's how we create a lot of sustainability. I think that's, again, one of the reasons I'm still fully booked and why our revenue is up this year and why so many of my clients, in a year that I do think it is just more challenging, I think I wrote a sales post, I think it's next week. And I was like, I'm going to say the thing I shouldn't say in a sales post, which is, I think it's just more challenging than ever. I really just think that's true. And I think that has been true for every single one of my clients. But thinking about these things and putting these things in place can make it feel like it isn't as challenging. I know I have to think about business in a whole different way than I used to, but my business actually feels in some ways easier, more easeful than ever. I think I have more trust and sustainability than ever. I think I feel like I'm future-proofed more than ever. And it is also true that it feels like it requires more than it did in the past to do that. Okay. So I would just say this isn't about doing more. This isn't about suddenly, notice this isn't a big new strategy. This is about not losing sight of what worked to get you to where you are and continuing to do both, right? And not getting so fully booked or not chasing making so much money, or like, let's say you have a big month. It's not like, okay, now I'm going to suddenly create a new offer. Maybe it's now I want to make sure first I have the time and capacity to keep my pipeline full, to keep this offer full. And then once that's all sorted, I can think about that scalable next offer. Or in my case, right, I want to make sure I don't get so overbooked that I ever lose sight of keeping my pipeline full. So I hope that was valuable for you. Again, if you have questions now in the replay, if you're in the vault, you can always email me. I would always love to answer those or to do another live stream on those. Let me know if you like this kind of content, because it is a little bit more, I think, granular or nuanced. And before I hop off, let me share my announcement. So this is actually, I wanted to share it today, even though I don't have all the things ready for you, because I think it's perfect with this conversation. One of the things that has always kept my pipeline full, I built my business on offering free coaching sessions. I will die on a hill around the benefit of giving away free mini sessions. I know there are so many people who are like, I don't get on calls and free calls don't work. And I don't know. I don't know why that voice, but there's just so many people who love to hate on it. You do not have to do free calls. You do you. I will just say, they built my business. They got me fully booked. They have kept me fully booked. And I've always, I remember at a certain point when I was overbooked, one of the things that almost started to mess with my pipeline was not only that I was repurposing so much content, but I didn't have capacity to offer any more free calls. And that didn't impact me then. But one of the things I remember talking to my coach about, and what I decided is I never want to get so full ever again that I don't have room to offer free calls from time to time, to offer free consultations from time to time, right? To do the things that keep my pipeline full, that long-term protect my business, I think are of service, but are also just like really smart strategically for me, which is one of the reasons, everything we're talking about here, why I dropped my roster and why I'm mindful before I add on another spot. Though I do, for the right person, I really will open up one more additional coaching spot. So I will drop a link for a free coaching consultation if you're hearing all of this and you know that you're ready for long-term partnership and you really want support that's going to help you not just get fully booked or to sell out your next launch, but to do that over and over again to future-proof your business. So you're making 6-7 figures this year, but also 3 years from now, 7 years from now, right? That's what we really want. So I'll drop a link for a free coaching consultation if that's interesting to you. But bringing it back to my fun thing I'm going to do here. So I'm booked out. So I don't have a ton of room to offer free sessions anymore. We will offer them with my masterclasses. We try to do one once a month for our Evergreen Ads funnel if you sign up for that. Like we pick someone randomly, but I just frankly don't have a lot of capacity for offering free sessions because I'm full. And I was like, oh, I promised myself I would never get so full that I can't offer free sessions. Like, how do I split the difference here? How do I also make sure I'm walking my talk here and thinking about my future pipeline? Because yes, we're booked out for however long, but I don't take that for granted. And I know that I can't rest on my laurels. And I really need to think about 2026 and 2027 and AI and all of those things. So what I thought would be really fun, and I'm really excited for this, and I hope you are as well, is I'm going to open up a couple of free session spots in exchange for us recording your session. You will be completely anonymous unless you want me to, shout out who you are so that you can get the publicity and visibility. But I know coaching can be a very vulnerable private thing. And one of my top values with clients is protecting client confidentiality. So I'm creating an application. So I will drop a link probably tomorrow for an application here. You can also DM me if you know you want in on this ahead of time. But I need to see how many of you are interested in this. I will open up a few sessions based on application for free coaching. We will have a free coaching session. I will support you fully. We'll meet on Zoom. I will take the audio from that. Again, you will be anonymous, and I'm going to create a private podcast feed that I will then share publicly, obviously, that people can sign up for, to let more of you in on what that coaching is like. This way, I can give a few of you free coaching sessions, but I also get the benefit of then we get to have those coaching sessions as a really great teaching tool, because I know what's personal is universal. I know if I coach one of my clients on something, 3 more clients are going through that. I know if you join me for a free coaching session and I support you with something, there are so many people in this audience who I'll never have the opportunity to work with who need to hear that or who are going through something similar. So my hope is by doing this, yes, it future proofs my business, right? Like, yes, it's a great way for me to showcase my coaching, all of that. But it also feels like a really great way for me to get to give back and to continue to sort of maximize offering free sessions and giving that value to more of you, where I get to, a couple of you who are open to it, I get to support you directly, but that more of you can also benefit from hearing through others. I know that's something I always love and benefit from. So I hope you're as excited about this as I am. I think it's going to be really fun. It also just gives me a chance and an opportunity to meet with a couple more of you. So I have been, in full disclosure, deep in with quite a few clients with their launch stuff, so I haven't had as much time to put this together. I'm going to put together the application for that. I will drop that end of today, tomorrow, in the comments here if you're in the vault in that, and then I'll start announcing this more publicly. I'm going to just open up a few sessions to start with because, again, of capacity, and we'll probably have the private podcast ready for you a little bit down the road. So if you're interested in this, take me up on the application. It'll be short. I just want to make sure that we're actually a fit and that I can support you for this to give you one of those spots. If you have questions, you can DM me, message me. If you're like, I know I want in on this and I really want one of those to snag one of those sessions, you can DM me ahead of time. I'll give you first priority. And then if you're like, I don't want to be recorded on my session and I just know I want to work with you or I want to know what that's like, I will also drop a link for a free coaching consultation. Okay, I love you all so much. I hope this was helpful. I try to be as much of an open book as possible, so I hope this was all valuable for you. All right, that's all I've got for you. I will see you next week. Next week I've got a fun conversation about manifesting and what pisses me off, so that'll be good. All right, I love you all. I will see you next week.